Welcome back. Wasn't planning on this video, but uh, watching a video and I saw a person with a pocket protector brought back memories how my father always wore a pocket protector, had it, and then had his checkbook behind it, and he'd get them from the bank or they'd just hand them out, those plastic ones. So I had some, you know, 2 3 ounce leather, and I had a couple offcuts. I was like, well, let's see if we can make one tonight and see what we can do. So um, I measured the pocket of one of my shirts, and it's 3 1/4 wide, and it was 4 inches tall. So we've got to come up with a pattern first. So what I'm going to do is come down 4 inches and then give myself a line where I can fold to. I know that my pocket is 3 1/4, so I'm going to go 3 inches wide. From the edge of the paper. And then we'll connect this line, then I'll draw a couple more. Isn't this great? Now you're seeing what not to do. And we'll come down. I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it or not, but we're going to find out together. Then we'll take some scissors and we're going to, that does seem narrow, but guess not. That's the nice thing. If we make one and we find out that we could make it bigger, we just make another one. And like probably most of you guys, I've got a box full of offcuts that I want to use for something. So that's going to be what we have to work with. What I'm going to do next is just take my ruler and fold this up and over. And bring it back on itself. And take a pen, or in this case pencil, but to see, because I want to make sure the pen will lock on to the pocket protector, and it looks like I need to come up just a little bit more. So we're going to come up a little bit more. And you can tell I'm real precise about this. And now let's see again. Okay. So we've got that. And let's bring it up to approximately the top of the pen. And we'll, so about an inch. We'll go an inch. And then we'll go an inch over here. And then we play connect the dots. Making patterns is fun. It's not hard. And especially if you do them out of paper first, or I've done them even out of like manila folders. Good material to work with to get a shape. With this also, by doing it this way, we can just fold it and sew the seam. We can do it out of 3 pieces by cutting these apart and stitching across the bottom. Then we need a flap for the front, and we've got to decide let's go with 2-inch flap. So we're going to come down 2 inches. And our width was 3 inches. Kind of tough. You ever been in the theater and somebody's sitting in front of you and you're trying to look around them, or in school and they're right in front of you? That's what I'm doing right now with this camera. It's directly in front of me. But hopefully it's going to give you a good view so you can see what I'm doing. And then we'll put this right here, and that will be the piece that goes over. Now, we don't want these corners to be square, so we'll round them. My circle pieces are over on a file across the room, so I'm just going to use what I got right here. And it happens to be the cap to a staining pen. Which will work. You know, use what you got. And be creative. You may not have all the same tools somebody else has, but if you have some imagination, you can make do with what you got. And then we'll go to this one. Could you measure this directly out on the leather? Sure. But sometimes I find it easier with paper so I can actually, you know, fit it and see. Because what I thought was going to be good on the front height turned out to be a little bit wrong. So now we've got our flap and our body. And we've also got a piece of leather. So first off, we're going to make the body. And I'm using a scratch awl. To mark it. And I'll also use it to mark my corners. Let me pull it down a little bit. There we go. We'll okay. Now we can use a bigger ruler to connect the marks. And you can also cut this at this point. Boom. And then what we're going to do is put our flap right here, so we make one cut. And go to this side because I was having a hard time seeing on the other side of the ruler or square. Cutting it out, you can do it a couple ways. I usually keep a small cutting board. I just buy it at Amazon or Walmart. It works. And pull out my head knife, and let's see how this works, since I'm looking through the camera. Kind of messes up my depth perception, I can tell you that. There we go. And since I don't want to ruin that piece of leather, I'm just going to come down here and start cutting up. And if you roll the head knife forwards, the more blade you put in the leather, the easier it is to track straight. I don't know about you, but this tool, and not just this brand, but this tool used to scare me real bad. You know, I heard how the old timers used it and it worked real good, but it just frightened me until I started using it. I'm trying to keep my hands here. I keep it sharp. I keep my thumb, and I hold it up, and I don't try to rush. Just go slow, and watch what you're doing, and you'll be able to cut the line. And I never believed that until I started using it. And when I didn't have my tools down here, I was using a utility knife. And I could tell I was having a hard time keeping straight lines, not just straight not just straight this way, but straight this way. And one of the things I like about the head knife is I've got this whole piece as a guide. So when I'm cutting, if I'm angled, I can tell up here that I'm not down where my blade, tip of the blade in the leather is, so I can just straighten it right up. And my cuts are much straighter. You take a utility knife and you're cutting heat like this, it's easy to roll it as you're pulling it. I didn't feel like I had as much control. So a good head knife um, is a blessing. Um, okay. And now we've got this corner. I'm gonna have to come over here a little bit because I've got to be around to see. With a head knife, you roll it down here, you've got more meat in the leather, so you can't really rotate it. You start bringing it up on the point, you can work that around real nice. Um, so what I'm going to do, and I'm having a hard time with this, so if I bump the camera, bear with me. And to steer it, I am moving the back of the handle out as I go. And I'm gonna have to come over here because I've got to get it outside the camera so I can see better. That camera's messing me up something fierce. Let's try this again. I'm going to come away from the camera. There we go. That's better. Now if you see my ugly gourd in there, you'll have to overlook it. Worked pretty good. Now we've got to mark our corners. So I'm not sorry about reaching over. Okay. And just trace this out. I'm sorry if you can't see too well, but I'm having to hold the paper down and trace this out. Okay. Next, we'll cut this one too. And this camera's messing me up big time. Don't you love it when I give excuses? There we go. Clip that end off a little bit. Okay, now we've got our pieces cut. We've got to decide, do we want rough out, where it's going to look like this? This is going to be to the shirt, this is going to be in the shirt, but this is seen. Or do we want, finished leather, but then up here is unfinished? Personally, I'm going to go with rough out, so that when you see it, this is finished. I apologize. I was talking about rough out or finish out. If you do rough out, this is going to be in your pocket. This is going to be against your shirt. This is going to be seen, and this is going to be seen. So really, all you're going to see, if you do it this way, is finished leather. If you do it with finish out, the only finish you're going to see is the flap that goes over your pocket. You're going to see the rough as somebody looks at your pocket, and the pens are against this. To me, that's less attractive than doing rough out, which nobody will see the rough out because it's going to be in your pocket and back here. So that's the way we're going to do it. We've got to mark where the top is going to be, so that we might end up doing something special with it. So we know that this flap will come up to here. What we'll have to do, if we're making the pocket protector without any tooling, we would glue it and stitch this first, and then we would fold it, glue it, and then do the vertical stitch. But since that's not what we're going to do, we're going to make it special. We're going to tape the back. I use clear packing tape. It just works for me. Maybe the biggest reason I use clear instead of blue, I found that when I use blue, sometimes I was having a hard time getting it off of the piece. It would rip and break, and I was spending more time fussing with it than I was tooling and enjoying it. So that's the main reason I started using packing tape. Then I'll take a glass slicker and go across it. Pick them up. Bring my cutting board back in. And this is why I love this little cutting board. I can just set it to the side when I'm done, and then when I need it, bring it out. I don't have a cutting table now, so I'm having to make the best of what I've got. And I'm going to clip this corner since I missed the mark when I was cutting that edge. Let's clip these corners. Okay. Done, done. Now we can take that back off. I'm done with my head knife. So I'll put that back in the sheath. And if you're ever making a head knife, works great to have this as your rear lock, and then just falls in and closes up. So we've got this piece. I'm going to use my glass slicker and smooth it. Some people will say it doesn't do anything and you don't need to do it. They probably are right. But you know something? I'm going to continue doing it because it makes me feel better. And it's my time. Okay, so now we've got to see what we're going to put here for a tooling. I want to have a border around, so we're going to use wing dividers. We've got to come in up here for the stitching. So I'm going to come in approximately a 1/4 inch. I'll start up here. I won't go all the way over, but then I can see this point in the line and I can start here. And I know I can join it after. Now I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to start rolling it as I get here, so that it's easier with a thicker piece of leather. So I get a smooth corner. Let's do this one more time. Then I'll turn it too. And I can bring it up and I can see. Then I'll come back in here, run my line down, run my line over. Since we're using that distance here, let's do the same here. This is where the pocket is going to fold up to. I'm going to tool a little bit farther down, and I'm going to bring up the pocket. Kind of wish people wore pocket protectors again, because I don't know, I just remember my dad doing it, and always had his checkbook, and he ran a, remember those black and blue Bic, were they Bic? Solid blue, not the clear ones, or they might have been paper mate, I don't remember, but he always ran those in his pocket. Um, so it was kind of interesting memories. Um, a lot of people wore pocket protectors. Um, so we've got our lines in. Now we decide what we're going to do. And I'm going to look at my stamps. We're going to put in a basket stamp. And a small half moon border. Okay. If you can see those. I purchased that from Barry King, because on smaller items, you know, you don't get many baskets in there, or many impressions a lot of times. So what we're going to do is do an angle. I kind of like, whoop, I was going to use my pencil while I was talking. So we're just going to take it, bring a line up. I'm going to come to the other side, bring a line up, and I'm not pressing down hard. I just want to leave a little bit of a mark to be a guide, so that I know as I'm running, if I wander off, I can adjust it. With the small stamp, it's a little bit more important, and this is probably a little bit too big, because you can be off a lot in this distance. Here, I want to maintain the same angle, so I'm going to line it up with this angle. This is even with the edges, and I'm going to use that as my baseline. So when I put it on, the angles should match. And the reason I'm spinning it around, for me, it's easier to look at this line and then the ruler, to make sure I've got it lined up. And then I can come down, bring it over, and down. Now I've got some fine lines. Let's see if you can, I'm not sure if you can see them, but I can. And the whole point of this is to make them not super visible. Then I'm going to take some water. I just use a sponge. These sponges I get at Hobby Lobby in the art department. They're like $4.99 for 4 or 6 of them. Wouldn't go through too many unless if I didn't leave my cover off my water bowl and my cats come over and grab it and start chewing it up. It's wonderful having animals in the house. And just tonight, we were eating and I had made a nice stew, large chunks, and we got garlic bread with it, and I love garlic bread. And had our cousin over, and we're talking, and I'm eating, and I had my pieces of garlic bread on this table right here on the side, and I turn around and I'm talking to Jenny, my wife, and my dog. She's a little dog. She's a Anatolian livestock guardian dog, weighs about 125, 130, maybe a little bit more now. She walks over, doesn't have to raise up, just straightens her head out. She sneaks over quietly, grabs my garlic bread, and I see a movement in the corner of my eye, and she's slowly backing up and around, running off with my garlic bread. I wasn't happy. Wasn't happy at all. My wife and cousin, they were sitting there laughing, and she was so cute. What could I do, though? Because those sad looking eyes. What I'm doing now, I've wet it. Doesn't take a whole lot for these. Letting it dry back a little bit. I'm going to get out my swivel knife. I'm going to strop it a few times. And kind of wipe off the blade from any gunk. And then I'm going to, I've got to switch my camera now. I'm going to pause you for a second. Okay. Now we're back again. We'll see how this looks. I'm going to turn around and cut this outside line. And with 2-ounce leather or so, you don't have a whole lot of depth. When I stop cutting, one thing you can do to help prevent jagged edges, come back behind the cut just a little bit, set it in, and then start coming forwards. It gives the blade a chance to fall back in line with where it was. And don't be afraid to pull the blade out and shift the leather. Going back in. And we'll come down here. Just want to make sure I'm in the camera. And if you rock the knife forwards towards me, put more blade in the leather, it's easier to track straight. You notice how I'm not joining those two cuts? That's so it doesn't create a weak spot in the leather. Once we bevel it, you won't be able to see the difference. but you really don't want that corner lifting because that would be ugly. Now we're going to go do this section. I'm going to rock it back a little bit and then lift, because I always want to be able to see that blade so I know where it is. Because if you can't see it, it's easy to go off the line. And around the corners, turn your barrel. Okay, we've got that done. With this, I've found a lot of people will bevel this edge. I found that when I do my border, I like it better when I leave it up and then I use my border stamp. I just like the looks of it better. Okay. We're going to come in. We're going to set our first stamp on the lines, and what I'm doing is putting this edge on the line and that edge on the other line, driving it down, and then I'm going to spin it so I can look at it, make sure I get the corner in, and I rock it. Because if you mess this section up, it's a lot harder because this is the line that you base everything off of. And you don't have to hit this hard. This little stamp is small and the leather's thin. Okay. Yeah. I didn't do this side over here. You may think this is a lot of work spinning it back and forth. It may be. But I like the effect it gives me because I've messed up a lot and I've had wavy basket weaves because I wasn't doing this. So that little bit of extra for me is worth it. For you, your mileage may vary. And that's what's wonderful about this. You're always right, just like I'm always right. Yeah, my wife just snorted over there. You know, I'm always right when she's not around. And don't think that I'm being rude to her. I mean, we cut up and carry on. We always have. Um, because if you're sensitive, don't come around this house. Because you're fair game. But it's funny also. We'll cut up and carry on with each other, but it's kind of like brothers and sisters. They'll whoop each other and they'll almost kill each other. But by golly, nobody else does it. Okay, so now we're going to go for one side and we're going to do all of these. This is where it gets a little bit easier because you're just lining these up with the previous. And what I'm doing is I'm rocking it towards me just a little bit to make sure I'm centered. I see a slight gap and then I straighten it up and tap it in. With this little tiny stamp, you don't need a large hit. Otherwise, you'll ruin the stamp and don't want to do that. One other thing that will help you is I'm leaning down a little bit so I can see it. You might want to let your seat down a little bit. So you're not having to crane over a little bit. But a little stamp like this can be a pain because you've got so many stamps that you're putting in, more chances of messing up. There are some people who will just walk these along real quick. And that is fantastic. But I was doing a real nice pen case, a big one, uh, and I was on the back panel zipping along, and I misstamped. Like instead of stamping here, I stamped here, so I had these two side by side. And when I'm at this edge, I'm leaning it back to my left, and if I have to, I'll lean it towards me a little bit to get that impression, because the goal is not to go over that cut line. You can take a modeling spoon and try to clean it up. I've done it. Doesn't really come out all the time, but it does minimize it. So it's easier not to do it in the first place. So you can see I'm going slow because I'm looking to make sure I'm centered this way and I'm in the previous mark. One of the ways to gauge yourself, it should be nice and straight here. And if you look at the center of the stamp, you want to be able to take a ruler and see that it's nice and straight. That's how you know you've done a good job, if it's all nice in line. If you see a wave in it, you got more work to do. And it's not, I'm not saying it's, you know, it's terrible, but you know, if you're putting your time into this, you're spending your money on the leather, the tools, and you know, you're going to give it as a gift, or people are going to see it. I want them to see my best. And it may mean practice. You know how I know all these little things? I've done them wrong. And that's the hard part at times. Because here's a question for you. Do you know the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Knowledge is learning from your mistakes. Wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. A lot cheaper that way too. And a lot less heartache. You know? But if you want to learn basket weave and get a lot better, a small basket stamp will do a lot for you, because you're doing a lot more stamps in a smaller area. And you know, it really helps with repetition. You know, I can tell you how to do it. I can show you how to do it. And you may know all the terms and be able to talk a good game. But, and you may be able to fool everybody until you do a piece and they see your work. I'll tell you an old Vermont saying that I live by, and it served me well. I want to know what you know before I listen to what you say. Just like me. Look at my work. See what my work looks like. See if what I'm doing is good. If it's not, probably not worth your time to listen to me and spend with me. Because I might be blowing smoke up your butt. But if you like the way my work looks, and I'm telling you how I do it, then it might be worth listening to. Because this is going to sound probably pretty rough to some. When I started getting into leather work or anything, I will work, I will look to the people who are where I want to be. And they're what I'm going to gauge myself against. Okay, here we go. If you've done well, you see that line that we scratched in? Look at how even it is. That lets me know that the stamps are running properly. If you find that it's wavy or it's real off, look at what you're doing. There's a couple things you could be doing. And in a minute, I'll get a piece of scrap and I'll show you a couple areas. Now, since we've got this side done, we're going to rotate it around and we're going to go through this side. This is actually a lot easier than that first row. That first row is hard because you've got to really make sure you're on that line. And you think, oh, I'm just being too picky. That's the place you want to be picky. Because if you have a bad foundation, it doesn't matter how pretty the rest of the building is. It's not worth anything. Kind of the same way here. But when you're doing this, get yourself a cup of coffee. I've got mine sitting over here. Relax and just enjoy the ride. Some, you may want to listen to some music. And that's good too. Use when I was in my other shop or house, the family knew I was tooling because I would play Les Miserables. So they knew when they heard that I was in there working. I say the term working, probably more like playing, but it sounds better the other way. And but it's fun. What I'll probably do is speed this up when I go to edit it, because I know this isn't the most fun to watch. Kind of like watching grass grow. Okay, we've got that done. Now, you remember how I told you how to see if what you've done is good? Okay, we're going to pick right here. See that line? Pretty straight. Let's come up here. Good. Now let's go over here. Pretty good. So we've done good keeping it tracked this way. But what about this way? Let's start here. And we're going to use the center. Okay. Done good. But you can see this one and this one, I started to drift this way just a hair. Now let's come up here to a longer run. Pretty good. All the way down through. See how straight that is? Let's come up here. Pretty good, except for down here. It drifted. And let's come up here. Pretty good. If you want to see how you're doing with your basket weave, that's the way you do it. You see if you're straight here and if you're straight here, because you don't want to have any missteps or off. Now we're going to use the border stamp and we're going to put it in. And you're going to see the reason I don't bevel that edge. See, I've got a nice all over. I'll cut it. And if you look, I'm looking down at the angle right here to make sure the back of that is in that groove. And then I tap it and move down. And this is where it kinda, you're gonna have to do the best you can with the corners, because a flat back has a hard time coming around the corners. There we go. You might be able to see it better. And I'll show you once I get this done why, another reason I don't bevel it. And I'm watching the corners here. I'm watching this corner and this corner up here to make sure it's right on that line, and then come around. Same thing here. And this will look real good once the antique comes in. Now, what I was going to point out, see this edge right here? It, without it being beveled, it sunk in nice, and all, let me see if I can do this. There we go. See how this is set? To me, that looks better. I get a better impression when I go around it. But that's just personal preference. When this comes up to right here, it's going to look pretty good because when you put a pen in, you know, you got plenty down there, so you're not going to see the plain leather. This is done. I might add a little bit of water to this again, just because it, you know, it's been a while, and I want to make sure it's good. It's a smaller one, so it definitely won't take as long. And what I'll do is I'm going to let that set up, and I'm going to pause it. Okay, I'm back again. We're going to start doing the beveling, basket stamping again. Sometimes I'll get the right words, sometimes I don't. And then we just choose. I'm going to choose right about here. And remember, this first row is real important to our line. We'll keep rotating it. I messed up. What I should have done is I forgot that I started here and I was going to go up across here. I should have started here and then put one here and come down one and then come around and adjusted to close it in. But that's where we learn from our mistakes, and hopefully learn from others. So hopefully you guys will learn from my mistake. Okay, our two pieces are done. Now what we're going to do, let them dry. We'll put a resist on them. We'll antique them. Then we'll put a top coat and we'll sew them up. So I'm going to pause you right now so we can wait for them to dry. Okay, welcome back. What we're going to do now is we're going to antique. I put a resist on it. I'm using Fiebing's antique brown, or Sheridan brown, I'm sorry. And I'm using a dauber to get it in all the spots. And then I'm going to take toilet paper and wipe it off. You may wonder why toilet paper. Well, as long as it's non-pilling, it's inexpensive, it's soft, easy to come by, and it just plain old works. There we go. We'll let that dry, and we'll go to the other one. And there we go. And that's the reason I like the daubers too. I don't have access to a saddle shop, so scrap wool is hard for me, so I can buy these real cheap. And they do what I need them to do. Hey, Penny, my dog. Then I'm just going to get all that off. Um, put the top back on the antique. And wipe up my stone. I wish I had a separate place, but this is where I've got to do everything, so. And now we do what we did before. We wait, we let it dry. I'll put a top coat on it, and then we go to assembly. On pause, you go. Okay, welcome back. What we're going to do now is remove the backing, the tape, and what I'm doing is holding it down and I'm pulling the tape on itself to try to keep it from messing with the leather. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. We'll flip it over, and what I generally do is just use my scratch awl, come in here, get to the corner, just loosen up the corner, come down, put my other finger on the back, and try to bring it down and just roll it back on itself. There we go. What we can do is, since this is going to be out, we'll just put a little moisture on it. And we're going to a little glycerin soap, and we're going to kind of burnish the back a little bit because this is going to be on the pocket and you're going to see it. So there, done. And we've removed this. And we're going to do this one too a little bit because it's kind of hairy. Got a little bit too much water on that, but okay. Glycerin soap again. And the this will just make it look a little better. Okay. of water. And now what we'll do is we're going to edge it, because this piece I want to edge around the outside. When we sew this piece together, then I'll come back and edge this piece and the other piece together. By the way, this is a number 0, if you're interested. Come on now. This piece is, apparently I haven't sharpened this in a while, so it's not doing as good as I want. And then we'll flip it over and do the same thing. Okay. This one we fold up. Only ones I need to do here is this top edge. We've got that. I'm not going to do anything more with this until we sew it together. This piece, I'm going to dye this edge. There we go. And try a little glycerin soap. I'm going to try it at first with just the dye. And we'll see what happens. Let me change the angle here. I'm learning this thing too. So what I'm going to do is get my scratcher. I don't need to because we're gluing it on this side. Okie dokie. So um, grab my glue, and right now I'm using water-based. No, no special reason other than my other stuff kind of got hard. So I'm going to go with this. There we go. And now, looking for a piece of scrap leather. To use as a applicator. I've got a nice plastic one, or silicone. Just don't know where it is. So I guess I don't have it. Put this back over, cover it up till I need it again. And then we'll let that dry down a little bit. And we'll see. Okay, now I'm going to sew it, mark it for my stitch line. I usually go a smidge over a quarter, eighth. Let's see. Boom. Actually, I can go all the way across. Okay. Now we'll punch the holes. Hmm. There we go. Now I'm going to stop it and we're going to sew. Okay, we've got it sewn. The next step is to bevel this edge and the other. So come down, lightly hit that and that. Then we'll die it. There it is. And glycerin soap. And then I'm going to pull it away from here so I can, sorry about that. Okay, we've got the edge cleaned up. Now what we've got to do is scuff up this so we can glue it. There's my scuffer. And I made the mark up here for my top piece. So okay. Now we'll glue this to this. Okay, there we go.